I live in a small but cozy apartment downtown, a little sanctuary away from the hustle of the city and the even greater hustle of my job. For the last 6 years, I've poured my life into Sterling Solutions, a top-tier marketing firm, working my way up to senior project manager. My life was my work, and my work was my life, and I thought I had it all under control. This is the story of how my most ambitious colleague tried to destroy my career, not knowing that the empire she was trying to seize from me was never mine to begin with. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. My journey at Sterling Solutions was a classic tale of hard work paying off. I started as a junior associate, bright-eyed and eager, and climbed the ladder rung by rung. Arthur Sterling, the firm's owner, was a mentor to me. He was old school, a man who valued loyalty and results above all else. He saw my potential early on, and under his guidance, I flourished. By the time I turned 31, I was managing the company's most important accounts. I was Mr. Sterling's right-hand woman, the one he trusted to handle the million-dollar deals and soothe the most demanding clients. My colleagues respected me, and my career path seemed paved with gold. Then, Vanessa Vance joined the team. She was hired as a junior project manager, fresh from business school with a polished resume and a smile that could charm a snake. She was ambitious. You could see it in her eyes. From day one, she attached herself to me, positioning herself as my protégé. "Meredith, you're such an inspiration," she'd say in our team meetings. "I hope I can be half as successful as you someday." I was flattered. I believed in mentoring and helping other women succeed, so I took her under my wing. I shared my knowledge, included her in high-level meetings, and gave her opportunities to shine. I saw her ambition not as a threat, but as a reflection of my own younger self. David Chen, our lead analyst and a good friend, was more skeptical. "Be careful, Meredith," he warned me over lunch one day. "She's a little too eager. The way she watches you, it's like she's studying a playbook." I brushed it off as professional caution. "She's just driven, David. We need more people like that." In hindsight, his words were a prophecy I was too naive to understand. Vanessa was a quick study. She learned the ins and outs of our major accounts, memorized my presentation styles, and mastered the art of being indispensable. She became my shadow, always there, always smiling, always learning. But in the shadows, things were beginning to fester. The compliments started to feel hollow, her questions a little too pointed. She wasn't just learning from me, she was mapping out my every move, looking for a weakness, a crack in the armor she could exploit. The stage was being set, and I was unknowingly casting the lead in my own downfall. The first real crack appeared with the Apex Innovations account. It was one of our biggest clients, a tech giant I had personally courted and signed 3 years prior. The relationship was my baby. I had nurtured it from a small-time contract into a multi-million-dollar partnership. We were in the final stages of negotiating a massive renewal, the biggest contract in our firm's history. I had spent months preparing the pitch, working late nights and weekends to ensure every detail was perfect. Vanessa, naturally, had been by my side through much of it, helping with research and organizing documents. I thought her assistance was invaluable. The day before the final presentation, I was running through the slides one last time in my office. Vanessa poked her head in. "Meredith, you look exhausted. Why don't you head home early? I can handle the final prep work. Just email me the presentation, and I'll make sure everything is printed and collated for tomorrow morning." I was tired, and the offer seemed like a lifeline. I trusted her. It was a simple task, a final administrative hurdle. So I thanked her, sent the file, and went home for a much-needed rest. It was the single biggest mistake of my career. The next morning, I walked into the boardroom, confident and prepared. But the atmosphere was frosty. The clients from Apex looked confused, almost annoyed. Mr. Sterling gave me a look I couldn't quite decipher. I launched into my presentation, but I could feel I was losing the room. About 10 minutes in, the lead client from Apex, a stern woman named Ms. Albright, cut me off. "Excuse me, Meredith, but this is the exact same presentation your colleague, Ms. Vance, gave us yesterday afternoon." Word for word, the room fell silent. My blood ran cold. I turned to look for Vanessa, and she was standing in the corner of the room, looking down at her tablet with a faint, almost imperceptible smirk. Mr. Sterling spoke up. There seems to have been a communication breakdown. Vanessa informed us yesterday that you had a family emergency, and that she would be stepping in to lead the final pitch. A family emergency? My phone hadn't rung. My family was fine. Vanessa had gone behind my back, taken my work, and presented it as her own a day early, framing it as her stepping up while I was dealing with a personal crisis. She had not only stolen my work, but it also made me look unreliable and unprofessional. The Apex contract was secured, but it was Vanessa who received the credit. In the company-wide email Mr. Sterling sent out later that day, she was hailed as a proactive and dedicated team player. I was mentioned as having provided support. The betrayal was so audacious, so complete, that I was left speechless. My shadow had just stepped into the light, and I was the one left in the dark. The Apex incident was a public humiliation, but it was what happened behind closed doors that truly opened my eyes. After the disastrous meeting, I confronted Vanessa. I found her in the break room, laughing with a few colleagues. The moment she saw me, her expression shifted to one of practiced sympathy. "Meredith, I'm so sorry about this morning's confusion," she said, her voice dripping with false sincerity. "When you didn't answer your phone last night, I got worried. I saw an email from the client asking to move the meeting up, and I just didn't want us to lose the opportunity. I had to make a command decision. It was a lie, and we both knew it. I hadn't received any calls or emails from the client. I checked my logs, nothing." I pulled her aside, away from prying ears. "What are you talking about, Vanessa? You went behind my back." She dropped the act. Her eyes turned cold. "I did what was best for the company," she hissed. "You were too slow, too complacent. Someone needs to be a leader around here." The mask was off. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a calculated act of sabotage. The whispers started soon after. Vanessa began planting seeds of doubt about my competence among our colleagues. I'd walk past a conversation that would suddenly die down. I was left out of email chains on projects I was supposed to be leading. Small errors, typos in reports I hadn't made, started appearing in my work after I submitted it. It was death by 1,000 cuts. She was meticulously crafting a narrative that I was losing my edge, becoming unreliable while she was the diligent, rising star ready to take over. The most damning part was how she twisted my relationship with Mr. Sterling. I had always been proud of the trust he had in me. Vanessa reframed it as favoritism. She hinted to others that my success wasn't due to merit, but because I had some special relationship with the owner. It was a vile and baseless insinuation, designed to isolate me from my peers and undermine my authority. I saw my reputation, built over 6 long years, being systematically dismantled. David was my only real ally. "She's building a case against you, Meredith," he said grimly. "Every little mistake, every rumor, it's all evidence for her campaign to replace you." I felt trapped in a web of her lies, and I knew I had to find a way out before she destroyed me completely. The breaking point came with a new potential client, a lucrative account named Omni Group. This time I was determined not to let Vanessa anywhere near it. I handled all communications myself, kept my research on a private drive, and worked from home whenever possible to keep my strategy under wraps. The proposal was my masterpiece, a culmination of weeks of intense market analysis and creative planning. I was scheduled to present it to Mr. Sterling for final approval before it went to the client. The day before my internal presentation, my laptop crashed. The screen went black, and nothing I did could revive it. Panicked, I called our IT department. They worked on it for hours, but ultimately declared the hard drive was corrupted. Everything was gone. The Omni Group proposal, my notes, my backup files, all of it. It was a catastrophe. I had to go to Mr. Sterling and tell him I had lost everything, that I would need an extension. The disappointment in his eyes was a physical blow. "This is uncharacteristic of you, Meredith," he said, his voice laced with concern. "First the Apex confusion, now this. Are you doing all right?" Vanessa, of course, was ready to pounce. She overheard the conversation and immediately stepped in. "Mr. Sterling, if I may," she began. "I took the liberty of drafting a preliminary proposal for Omni Group myself, just as a contingency plan. I could have it on your desk by the end of the day." She was painting herself as the savior. the one who anticipated my failure. It was too perfect, too convenient. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't bad luck. It was sabotage. I went to David. My career was on the line and I needed proof. I told him everything. My suspicions about the laptop, the rumors, the stolen Apex pitch. David, with his analytical mind, listened intently. "Let me look into it," he said. "Don't tell anyone." That night, David worked his magic. He was a wizard with data. He started with the IT logs. My laptop crash wasn't a random hardware failure. The logs showed a remote wipe command had been initiated from an internal IP address, Vanessa's workstation. He then dug into the email server. He found the client email Vanessa claimed she received about moving up the Apex meeting. It was a fake. She had created a dummy email address, mimicking the client's, and sent the request to herself to create a false paper trail. She had forwarded this fake email to Mr. Sterling as proof that she had to act. The final piece of the puzzle was a series of deleted messages David recovered from Vanessa's computer. They were conversations with a former employee of Omni Group, someone she was paying for insider information to build her contingency proposal. She hadn't just sabotaged my work. She was engaging in corporate espionage. David compiled everything into a secure file. The evidence was undeniable, a clear and chilling portrait of a ruthless campaign to get me fired and take my place. The Shadow's actions were finally exposed, and now it was my turn to step out of the dark. Armed with David's evidence, my first instinct was to run straight to Mr. Sterling and expose Vanessa for the fraud she was. But I knew that wouldn't be enough. She was a master manipulator. She would find a way to twist the story, to paint me as a bitter, paranoid rival. A simple firing wouldn't be justice for what she had done. I wanted her to feel the same humiliation and defeat she had inflicted upon me. Revenge needed to be a dish served not just cold, but on a silver platter in front of everyone. That's when a wild, audacious idea began to form. For months, there had been rumors of a potential sale of Sterling Solutions. Mr. Sterling was approaching retirement age, and several larger agencies had expressed interest. Vanessa, in her quest for power, had become obsessed with this rumor. She frequently bragged to junior staff about how she would be the perfect person to lead the agency through a transition, positioning herself as the heir apparent. She was so convinced that I was the only thing standing in her way that she assumed my close relationship with Mr. Sterling meant I was being groomed to take over, or perhaps even inherit a stake in the business. This was the core of her jealousy, the root of her entire scheme. She wanted the company she thought was mine, and I was going to let her have it. I went to see Mr. Sterling. I didn't show him the evidence right away. Instead, I told him I had a plan to not only expose a threat to the company, but also to secure our biggest ever client. I presented my idea, a grand piece of theater where Vanessa would be the star. I needed his complete trust and participation. He was skeptical at first, but as I laid out the details, a slow smile spread across his face. He loved the boldness of it. "It's a risky gambit, Meredith," he said, "but if it works, it will be legendary." The plan was simple. We would let Vanessa believe she had won. Mr. Sterling began to openly praise Vanessa in meetings, giving her more responsibility and publicly criticizing my recent stumbles. I, in turn, played the part of the defeated employee. I appeared withdrawn, demoralized, and overwhelmed. I let Vanessa see me packing personal items from my desk, fueling the rumor that I was on my way out. The bait was the Omni Group account. We would let Vanessa believe she was going to be the one to sign them. But there was a twist. The real Omni Group deal was already dead. Their budget had been frozen weeks ago. The client Vanessa would be dealing with was not Omni Group. It was a shell company, a fake entity we had created, fronted by an old friend of Mr. Sterling's. The prize she was fighting for, the company she thought she was stealing from me, was not what she thought it was. The trap was set. The day of the final Omni Group presentation arrived. It was staged as a major company event. The entire management team was assembled in the main boardroom. Vanessa was beaming, radiating an aura of triumph. She believed this was her coronation, the moment she would officially usurp me and prove her value to Mr. Sterling and the potential new buyers of the company. She walked in with a confident stride, her presentation loaded onto the main screen. I was also in the room, sitting quietly in the back, a specter at her victory feast. Vanessa delivered a flawless presentation. It was polished, professional, and full of data she had unethically acquired. She spoke of future partnerships, of new directions, of leadership. At the end, she looked directly at Mr. Sterling. "And that is how Sterling Solutions will secure its future," she concluded, her voice ringing with finality. The room was silent for a moment before Mr. Sterling began to applaud slowly. "Bravo, Vanessa. Truly. A remarkable performance." He stood up and walked to the front of the room. "Your ambition is truly something to behold, which is why I'm sure you'll be thrilled by some news I have to share." He gestured towards the screen. "You've been so focused on landing this Omni Group deal and positioning yourself for the future of Sterling Solutions. Well, I'm pleased to announce that the future is now. Last week, I finalized the sale of the company." A gasp went through the room. Vanessa's eyes widened, a greedy glint appearing in them. This was it. "Yes," Mr. Sterling continued. "I sold the business. The entire client list, our brand, our assets, everything." He paused, letting the tension build. "I sold it to the man you just presented to." The fake client, Mr. Sterling's friend, stood up and smiled. "And I got a fantastic price for it. You see, Vanessa, what you failed to realize in your exhaustive, and I must say illegal research, is that I don't own Sterling Solutions." He pointed a finger at me in the back of the room. "She does." The silence in the room was deafening. Every head turned to me. Vanessa's face went from triumph to confusion, to sheer, unadulterated horror. Mr. Sterling explained. "Meredith's father was my original business partner. When he passed away 10 years ago, he left his majority stake, 60% of the company, to her. I've just been the managing director, running the company until she was ready. All those years you thought she was my favorite, you were right. She was my boss." Then he turned back to Vanessa, his voice dropping to an icy calm. "And as the owner, she has been made aware of your recent activities." On the screen, Vanessa's presentation was replaced by David's evidence. The fake emails, the IT logs showing the remote wipe, the messages proving corporate espionage. Her elaborate scheme was laid bare for everyone to see. Her face crumbled. The victory she had so meticulously planned had turned into a public execution. She hadn't been trying to steal my job. She had been trying to sabotage her own boss. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Vanessa was fired on the spot, escorted out of the building by security. Her career in marketing was over. With the evidence of her corporate espionage, she would be lucky to avoid legal charges. The stunned management team finally understood the true dynamics of the company they had worked in for years. The rumors and whispers about me died instantly, replaced by a newfound respect and, frankly, a little bit of fear. The sale of the company was, of course, the final piece of the charade. The shell company was dissolved the next day. The business hadn't been sold. It was all a ruse, a perfectly crafted stage to ensure Vanessa's downfall was as public and humiliating as possible. My ownership had been the company's best-kept secret, a trump card I never intended to play. But Vanessa had forced my hand. In the weeks that followed, I stepped fully into my role as the owner of Sterling Solutions. I promoted David to be my second-in-command, a reward for his loyalty and brilliance. We addressed the toxic, competitive culture that Vanessa had fostered, implementing new policies that promoted collaboration and transparency. The company thrived. Without the internal backstabbing and political games, our teams were more creative and productive than ever. We even managed to re-engage the real Omni Group, and with an honest and innovative pitch, we signed them. It was the biggest contract in the company's history, secured on our own terms. My revenge wasn't just about punishing Vanessa. It was about reclaiming my narrative and protecting the legacy my father had left me. I had allowed myself to be underestimated, to be seen as just an employee when I was so much more. Vanessa's betrayal was a painful but necessary catalyst. It forced me to step out of the shadows and embrace the power I had held all along. Sometimes, the best way to defeat someone who wants to take what is yours is to let them think they've won, only for them to discover they've been playing the wrong game entirely. And that, I can say from experience, is the sweetest revenge of all.